TATTOOIST?
It was supposed to be a dolphin, but it's been messed up a few times.
It's been messed up a few times.
Trying to...
So you were supposed to have Flipper and instead you had a goldfish?
Yeah.
Mark is in court to claim £5,000 for injuries which he says were caused when a new tattoo became infected and left him with a painful lump on his wrist. Defendant Mel denies being responsible for Mark's injuries as he failed to follow his aftercare advice and therefore he owes nothing.
Do I have Mark here?
Yes.
Now, I know you've been injured and I know you're sitting on a stool, but I feel fairly confident that your voice is sufficiently loud for me to hear. Yes?
Yes.
Splendid. And Mel?
Yes.
Now, Mark, you're somebody who's had tattoos in the past, and you had a couple of tattoos that you didn't like, and at one point you decided to have a go at repairing one of them yourself, but it obviously didn't go terribly well because whilst on holiday you went to Mel's professional tattoo parlour and you asked him to go over those two tattoos, one on your left arm and one on your right arm. And after that tattoo work had been done, the artistic work had been done, you say, Mark, that you'd been injured, and in particular that the work that Mel had conducted had left you in one of your arms with a lump and an infection which hasn't gone away, resulting in serious pain. Which means you're in court today before me saying that it was Mel's fault, that his tattoo parlour acted negligently, they didn't give you the necessary aftercare advice, and what's more, in any event, something happened at that parlour which caused your infection and the resulting injury that you now have. Now, I think these aren't your only two tattoos on your arm. You've got some others, that's right, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
Now, tell me how many tattoos roughly you've got, and if you don't mind, please don't tell me where they are.
I've got 11.
Now, you decided at some point to get two tattoos here. This is before we ever come across Mel and his professional tattoo parlour. Yeah. You had two tattoos. I'm right, aren't I?
Correct, yeah.
Now, just tell me what those tattoos were. This is before the remedial work.
Well, it was supposed to be a dolphin, but it's been messed up a few times. And
let me write that down. It's been messed up a few times. So it was supposed to be a dolphin.
Yes.
So, I mean, it didn't work out. What was wrong with it?
The shape, what it looked like.
Right.
Friends had messed it up trying to...
So you were supposed to have Flipper and instead you had a goldfish?
Yeah.
I see. That was on this... That was on... Which arm was that?
On my left.
On your left arm. OK. What was on the right arm?
I had a heart. It was just something a mate was practising with.
I need to put my pen down, and this is the moment where I'm going to look at you, and eventually when you leave this court, there'll come a moment when you look in the mirror and you'll understand why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mate practising on you with the heart on your... Is it your right arm?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to turn now to Mel. Mel, how long have you been a professional tattoo artist?
28 years.
28 years, so approaching 3 decades of experience.
Yeah.
Just to be clear for the avoidance of doubt, you're a licensed tattoo artist.
Yes.
Tell me, what do you think about people practising who are unqualified doing tattoos? I've had a number of them in my court, some of them less successful than others.
Yes. Very dangerous.
Now, you had a heart on one arm, and we've got a dolphin on the other. So, I love dolphins, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It must have been all the rage at SeaWorld, or wherever it was. But you were unhappy with it.
Correct.
Now, when you wanted to change them, was the first thing that you did to seek out a professional tattoo artist, or did you try to do some remedial work on one of the tattoos yourself?
It was a little bit of me trying to get it looking better than it was. A
little bit yourself? Well, that's a bit like being a little bit pregnant. Do you understand? You can't really do that. You're not a qualified tattoo artist, just to be clear, OK? And did you buy a tattoo gun, or did you borrow one?
Bought one.
You bought one? Online?
Yeah.
Now, on a scale of 1 to the least sensible thing you've done in the last 10 years, how would that rate? Very unsensible, extremely unsensible, or stupid?
Stupid.
Mel, we've heard about other people doing tattoos who are not qualified.
Sure.
Presumably, from time to time, you must have people in your professional licensed tattoo parlour that come along that have done this sort of thing and had a go themselves.
Yes.
Right? What do you make of them?
Stupid.
I agree. I'm right, aren't I, that this is artistry? I've read what you've told me about it, that this takes some years to qualify and to train. Give me a sense of how long it took you to train before you felt sufficiently qualified to go and put a tattoo on somebody's skin.
It took me 3 years to do a first tattoo on
3
anyone.
years?
3 years.
Before you thought that it would be reasonable?
Before I was allowed to touch a tattoo machine.
Before you what?
I was allowed to touch a tattoo machine.
You weren't even allowed to touch one?
No. After 3 years, I could set them up for my mentor.
3 years to set them up?
Yes.
It's extraordinary. It's important that you hear what's said there.
Yes.
It's important anybody understands what it takes to do this. So how long after that before you actually put something on someone's skin?
It was then, after 3 years, I was allowed to do small
things.
simple designs.
Right. Now, eventually, after several years, you ended up doing work like this, which you provided me with. And the reason, just to be clear, Mark, that Mel has provided me with this today is to give me an indication, an example of the complexity of the type of art that you do.
Yes.
Now, Mark, you didn't seek Mel out online or anything of that kind. You were on holiday, is that right?
Correct.
Where were you on holiday?
In Blackpool.
And Mel, you've got your business in Blackpool.
I have.
So you've been in business, is it in Blackpool for 28 years?
I've been in Blackpool for 28 years, but in this particular studio for 18 years.
18 years?
Yeah.
Now, there came a moment where you were on holiday, and perfectly reasonably, actually, it was a very sensible thing to do. You came across Mel's shop. Did you do any research about Mel, or did you just see his licence up and you were satisfied that he was
licence.
Right. So you realised this was somebody who knew what they were doing.
Right.
You walked in, you showed him these tattoos. What, Mark, did you ask Mel to do?
See if he could work out something that would go over the old ones.
Right. And just to be clear, he did do that.
Yeah.
Did you at any stage tell Mel that you yourself had been over and had a go at changing one of the tattoos on your arm?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Grateful. And you asked, look, is there anything you can do to improve these? I can't imagine you thought they were any good, because by his own admission, they weren't any good.
No, that's correct.
So you came up with a design. He looked at them and immediately felt, I'm going to use the word inspired, but I think that might be generous. And he came up with 2 designs.
Correct.
Can you tell me what they were, Mark?
A dragon.
A dragon that was going to cover up what? That was going to cover the heart?
Yeah.
Splendid. And on the left arm?
Flames going up into a Union Jack and cloud effects on the left arm.
And you were happy with that design. Now, let's just have a look. That's the one on the left arm.
Correct.
And that replaced the fish. Let's call it a fish, because it
Yeah.
wasn't quite a dolphin, as far as I can gather.
Coming next.
When Mark came into the studio, he had a lot of gold on, both around his neck and around both wrists.
Where are you from?
Bath.
Sort of looked like Bath's version of B.A. Baracas.
Yeah.
How much gold did you have on?
40 bracelets.
What?
Loads of rings.
This is Judge Rinder. And this is his courtroom.
Does your friend owe you money and now you want it back? Is a member of your family saying they bought something for you and now they're refusing to pay for it? Perhaps somebody says you owe them money and you know you don't. Get in touch with me, criminal barrister Rob Rinder. I'm waiting to hear your case.
If you're 18 or over and would like to be considered for the show, text the word JUDGE plus your name to 63334. Text costs 25 pence plus 1 standard network rate message. Call 090 11 22 3344. Calls from BT landlines cost 26 pence. Other networks and mobiles may be a lot more. Or email judge@itv.com. We are unable to consider claims that have been or are currently in court. Mark is in court to claim £5,000 for injuries which he says were caused when a new tattoo became infected and left him with a painful lump on his wrist. Defendant Mel denies being responsible for Mark's injuries as he failed to follow his aftercare advice, and therefore he owes nothing.
Now, this is where the issue has come from, which I'm going to ask you about. And on the right hand, you've told me what you had done. Now, We need to go through. I'm going to leave that picture up there, OK? But you need to look at me for a moment. Mark, I need to know exactly what happened when you went and asked Mel to do this work. Now, you've had several tattoos done before, haven't you, Mark?
Correct, yeah.
So, on the previous occasions, before you had anything to do with Mel, you've been informed about Aftercare in respect of your tattoo, what you needed to do to look after it.
Keep the cling film over.
Right. You have to keep the cling film over it. For how long?
About an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Fine. What other things do you need to do, Mark? This is before Mel told you anything.
Keep it clean.
Keep it clean. When you went and got this tattoo, you signed a waiver. Do you understand that? As you do in any tattoo parlour. Michelle, can I get the waiver? Thank you. Now, this is the waiver. Did you read it before you signed it? Lots of people don't. Because you've had several done before, I can understand why you just signed something that's put in front of you. And what I suspect you thought when you signed this, Mark, was, well, this really guarantees that I'm over 18 and I consent to do it and I'm not drunk.
Correct, yeah.
Right? Am I right, Mel? When most people sign it, like any waiver, they don't really read it.
They don't, no.
No, and I'm grateful you say that. They should read it, they don't.
They should.
What this says is, I, being 18 years of age and over, fully aware of the irreversible nature of the service being provided. Well, that's very important, you understand that. And I hereby certify that I do not suffer from any blood or skin disease or allergy or nervous complaint. And I will follow, and this is the important part, OK, I need to read this to you. I will follow the aftercare recommendations provided and agree to indemnify, keep indemnified the supplier against all claims or proceedings in respect of any personal injury or damage arising out of or as a result of the supply of this service. Good Lord, lawyers. Now, there's two parts of that. The most important part, the only operative part, and I'm looking at you here, Mel, as well,
sure,
is the bit in this waiver which says you promise to look after it and do everything reasonable to look after it. Just to be clear, Mel, I have to tell you that last bit of the waiver really means nothing. And you know that. And lots of people supply businesses, not really professionally like yours, but bungee jumpers and all of those sorts of people that say, if you die, it's not our fault, sign here. You can't contract out of negligence. Do you understand?
That's correct.
Do you accept you signed that?
Yes.
Splendid. So, Mel, tell me what you said to Mark before you started tattooing in terms of aftercare recommendations.
When Mark came into the studio, he had a lot of gold on, both around his neck and around both wrists.
Is that right?
I did, yeah.
Did you look sort of... Where are you from?
Bath.
Bath. Sort of looked like Bath's version of B.A. Baracus.
Yeah.
How much gold did you have on?
40 bracelets.
What?
Loads of rings.
Hang on, I'm not criticising you at all. You're entitled to your own personal style and choice. I assure you, if you wanted to go around looking like a chandelier, that's entirely a matter for you. But just tell me what you had on your arms, out of interest.
About 40 bracelets.
40 bracelets? What, sort of 20 on each arm?
Yeah.
What sort of bracelets?
Gold ones, 9 carat.
These were heavy gold bracelets, as you've told me, because they were pure gold.
Yeah.
They weren't fake.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. I'm glad, again, you've admitted this to me. It's very important. And, again, I don't congratulate you, but I'm very grateful the way you've conducted the litigation so far by providing me with material which, on the face of it, admits all the things that you did.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what you said.
I said to him, when I completed the tattoo, please don't put your gold back on until the tattoo is completely healed. Right. As well as the normal aftercare of washing, cleaning and applying antiseptic cream.
Do you remember hearing that, Mark?
Yeah, I do.
I'm grateful. And you see, had you not admitted that to me, and I was very worried because your claim didn't make that admission, I was provided this morning with a statement, I think, from somebody who's a regular client who happened to be in the tattoo parlour that day.
That's correct.
I'm just going to... could you actually have you got that statement with you? Don't worry if you haven't.
I am.
Thank you. It says this, and yet again, because you've been honest, it assists me come to a view about your credibility.
Yeah.
It says a number of things. I've been a long-standing client of Mel's. He's been tattooing me for the last 6 years. I have never experienced any issues regarding how tattoos have healed, the quality or standard of the hygiene of the studio. I should think not. And this is the important part. And again, it corroborates, it agrees with what you've just admitted to me, OK? It says, I also witnessed Mel explain to Mark, after he had received the tattoo, about aftercare of the tattoo. And it says, I witnessed Mel personally hand him the aftercare sheet and explain to him not to wear any jewellery whatsoever. Now, I think you agree with me, don't you, Mark, that if you've had your arms tattooed, putting 10 large, heavy gold bracelets back over an open wound would not be a good idea.
No, it'd be too sore.
It would be too sore. Right. So, Mark, we now come to you. What exactly are you suing Mel for, please?
Because I've got a growth on my wrist now that...
You've got which wrist?
On my left wrist.
Now, is that the picture that
Correct.
is there? And just to be clear, I have had a look at that, and I'm satisfied you do have a lump.
Yeah.
So why do you say that that lump and that infection is Mel's fault?
Because it's only ever come up since I had that tattoo done.
Right. Is there any problem with your right arm?
No.
Now, after you had the tattoo, did you actually have an infection? Or was it just this lump that appeared?
Just the swelling which appeared, yeah.
The swelling appeared. How long after the tattoo was done did the swelling appear?
It was about an hour, hour and a half.
Right. Well, that's not uncommon for swelling to appear.
No swelling can occur.
Had you ever been on antibiotics, prescribed antibiotics, because of an infection that had been caused by a tattoo before you ever came across Mel and his professional tattoo partner?
No.
Never before?
No.
That's fine, I need to ask. Right. So you've taken antibiotics and that hasn't made the lump go?
Correct.
Do you accept that?
Yes.
Do you accept he told you not to wear gold jewellery?
Correct.
Do you accept that he told you that it was really important to keep it clean and all of those sorts of things?
Yes.
And, of course, after 28 years, you were perfectly satisfied that his premises were hygienic and that he knew what he was doing?
Well, in the studio, he does have a dog out the back, which...
You saw the dog before you sat down, I presume?
Yeah.
Right. OK. You were satisfied that it was hygienic before you sat down? Good. In the immediate aftermath, you got in touch with Mel by Facebook, is that right? Mel, I think you've brought me that evidence today. Can I have a look? And it says a couple of things. Firstly, look, I've got a lump under my arm, and I accept that you said that. It then says it's not your fault on several occasions. Am I right?
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you. Alan? Who's Alan?
Alan's my brother. Alan helps me out in the studio. He's also an administrator for this Facebook site.
OK, splendid. You didn't put your jewellery on straight away, did you, mate? Because he's not a qualified tattoo artist, but even he knows you don't do that.
Of course.
I'm only asking advice, so don't worry. I'm not blaming you, as you were hygienically sound. Well, let me ask you, Mel. You've been practising for 28 years.
Yes.
How many infections or complaints of infection that have resulted in any legal action against you have you had?
No infections whatsoever.
Say it louder.
None whatsoever.
None at all?
None at all.
28 years of unblemished, satisfied practice?
Correct.
Splendid. Mel, where on earth would you have got the information that Mark had had an infection in his wrist before?
He told me, and I've also got it on Facebook.
Really?
Yes.
Let's see the Facebook message. Is it up here?
It is.
I don't know, just noted to say, I did have infection when done flames or tried to. It says lol. I presume that's not laugh out loud. Is it? The doctor gave me antibiotics for it, but went away after them. Could it have flared up again? Could have done. And I've also got some evidence from a doctor as well. And it says a number of very important things. The two parts of the statement from the doctor that are relevant as far as your defence is concerned is any items put on top of a pierced area, including jewellery, could cause infection prior to it healing. It should have been advised wearing items such as jewellery or watches until the tattoo had healed. When giving consent orally or ideally written, did you provide written consent as well?
Yes.
Written instructions about how to look after the tattoo?
Yes.
For the procedure, one should establish that the client understands any complications that could occur as a result of the procedure. In my medical opinion, skin infection could be considered a common complication of tattooing.
Yes.
Thank you. Mark, I have to say that you've conducted this case in a reasonable manner. And what you ostensibly say to the court is, look, I went and got a tattoo. I understood the risks, but you can be confident based on what happened, because I haven't been to another tattoo parlour, that the lump that's under my arm took place because Mel did the tattoo. He's the only person that did the tattoo. And I shouldn't have a lump under there, therefore he must have been negligent. And I'm entitled to claim as a result. The problem is, Mark, in order to bring that case successfully to court, you have to prove, so that I'm more sure than not, that Mel fell below the standard of a professional tattoo artist. Not only am I not sure of that, but I'm entirely convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that he was a reasonable tattoo artist, in fact, a very professional one, had no complaints over 28 years, and in this instance did everything possible and everything reasonable to ensure you hadn't got an infection. Now, this is a decent professional man that did the work decently and professionally. And I have to say, it was a real try-on to bring him to court. Mel, I hope you don't ever have this experience in the future, but you should be careful about who you tattoo.
Thank you.
That's the order of this court. I'm afraid, Mark, your case is dismissed. I'm grateful for you coming, sir.
Thank you.
Mark's claim was unsuccessful, and he was awarded nothing by the judge. Let's find out how both parties felt about their day in court.
Obviously, I'm happy with the outcome. It's hard to get a reputation, a good reputation, and I felt I had to come here today to defend my reputation as a good, tattooist.
I do think it's unfair with Mel, because, like, at the end of the day, I've had a lump come on there, but it's never gone.
Did you try to do some remedial work on one of the tattoos yourself?
It was a little bit of me trying to get it looking better than it was.
A little bit yourself?
We told you not to put the jewellery on, you put it on straight away. I'm not saying that caused the infection, I'm not saying that caused the lump. I certainly know that the lump wasn't caused in that 2 hours you was in the tattoo studio. Definitely not.
Okay. Well, it was supposed to be a dolphin, but it's been messed up a few times. And
Can you write that down? It's been messed up a few times.
Yeah, you were a good tattooist, yeah.
I know I am. I'm sorry it's came to this.
I do feel Matt Mel's still responsible. But at the end of the day, the judge's word's final, and I respect that.
I've had a few sleepless nights and a couple of panic attacks and obviously a lot of stress and worry, but just glad it's all over now. No hard feelings, Mark,